The Winter Wonderland, exploring a snowy world. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by tall mountains, there was a young girl named Emily. Emily loved the winter season more than anything. When the first snowflakes of winter began to fall, her heart filled with joy. She loved watching the snow cover the trees, houses, and streets, making everything look like a magical winter wonderland. One morning, Emily woke up and looked out her window. The world outside was completely white. The snow was thick on the ground, and icicles hung from the roofs. It was the biggest snowfall of the year. She quickly put on her warm clothes, her thick jacket, wool scarf, hat, and gloves. She couldn't wait to go outside and explore. Emily grabbed her sled and ran out the door. The cold air touched her cheeks, turning them red, but she didn't mind. The snow crunched under her boots as she walked toward the village park, which was now covered in a blanket of snow. The trees looked like they were covered in frosting, and the lake in the park had frozen solid. Everything was quiet and peaceful. When she reached the park, she saw some of her friends playing in the snow. They were building snowmen and making snow angels on the ground. Emily decided to join them. They spent hours making the biggest snowman they had ever built. They gave him a carrot for a nose, 2 buttons for eyes, and a warm scarf around his neck. The children laughed and played, throwing snowballs at each other, their laughter echoing through the quiet village. After playing in the snow, Emily looked up at the mountains. She had always dreamed of exploring the snowy hills and valleys beyond the village. The mountains looked mysterious and inviting, like a magical world waiting to be discovered. Emily had heard stories from her grandmother about the winter wonderland that lay beyond the mountains, a place where the snow never melted and where magical creatures lived. Emily had always wanted to see if the stories were true. As she stood there, staring at the mountains, she made a decision. She would go on an adventure to find the winter wonderland. She felt excited, but also a little scared. What if the stories were true? What if she got lost in the snow? But Emily was brave, and her curiosity was too strong to ignore. She went back home and told her parents about her plan. Her mother was worried and said it might be dangerous. But her father smiled and said, "Emily, you are strong and smart. I know you can do this. Just remember to be careful and always follow the path." Emily packed her bag with food, water, and an extra pair of gloves, just in case. She also took her sled, thinking it might be fun to slide down the snowy hills on her journey. The next morning, as the sun began to rise, Emily set off on her adventure. The village was still quiet, with everyone sleeping in their warm homes. Emily walked toward the mountains, her heart full of excitement. As she climbed higher and higher, the snow became deeper, and the air became colder. But Emily didn't mind. She loved the sound of the snow crunching under her feet, and the sight of the sun shining on the snowy landscape, making everything sparkle like diamonds. After a few hours of walking, Emily reached a clearing at the top of a hill. From here, she could see the entire valley below, covered in snow. It was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen, but something caught her eye. In the distance, at the edge of the valley, she saw a forest. The trees were tall and dark, and they seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. Emily felt a strange feeling in her chest, part excitement, part fear. Was this the path to the Winter Wonderland? She decided to head toward the forest. As she got closer, the air seemed to grow colder, and the snow on the ground became even thicker. Emily's legs began to feel tired, but she didn't stop. She knew she was getting closer to something magical. When she finally reached the edge of the forest, she paused. The trees stood tall and silent, their branches heavy with snow. There was something mysterious about the place, but it also felt welcoming, like it was waiting for her. Emily took a deep breath and stepped into the forest. The trees were so tall that they blocked out most of the sunlight, and the world around her became quiet and still. As she walked through the snow-covered path, she began to notice strange footprints on the ground. They were not from any animal she knew. They were large, with sharp claws, but they didn't scare her. Instead, they made her more curious. Were these the footprints of the magical creatures her grandmother had told her about? Emily followed the footprints deeper into the forest. The air was cold, but her heart was warm with excitement. After a while, she heard a sound. It was soft at first, like the tinkling of bells, but it grew louder as she walked. Emily followed the sound until she came to a small clearing in the forest. There, in the middle of the clearing, was a beautiful frozen pond, and above it, small lights danced in the air. They looked like tiny stars, floating just above the ice. Emily couldn't believe her eyes. It was like the stories her grandmother had told her. This must be the beginning of the Winter Wonderland. The lights twinkled and danced, casting a soft glow on the snow around her. Emily felt like she was in a dream, but she knew it was real. Just as she was about to step closer to the lights, she heard a voice. It was soft and kind, but it came from behind her. "Welcome, Emily," the voice said. Emily turned around, her heart pounding. Standing there was a figure dressed in a white cloak, blending in with the snow. The figure had bright blue eyes that sparkled like ice and a gentle smile on their face. "Who are you?" Emily asked, her voice shaking a little. "I am the guardian of the Winter Wonderland," the figure replied. "You are very brave to come this far, but your journey is just beginning." Emily's heart raced with excitement. She had found the Winter Wonderland, but what would happen next? She looked at the guardian, her eyes wide with wonder. The Winter Wonderland, exploring a snowy world. Emily stood still, staring at the guardian of the Winter Wonderland. The figure's blue eyes shone like the cold winter sky, but there was warmth in the smile. Emily's heart beat faster as she realized that she had finally found the magical place her grandmother had told her about. The guardian stepped closer, the soft snow crunching under their feet. "You've traveled far, Emily," the guardian said. "You are brave, and your spirit of adventure has led you to this special place. But there is much more to discover here." Emily felt both excited and a little nervous. "What is this place?" she asked. "Is it really the Winter Wonderland?" The guardian nodded. "Yes, this is the beginning of the Winter Wonderland, a place of magic, where the snow never melts and the wonders of winter come to life. But few people ever find it. Only those with a true heart and a deep love for the snow can enter." Emily felt a warm glow inside. She had always loved winter, and now she was standing in the middle of a magical world where her dreams of adventure were coming true. "What happens next?" she asked eagerly. The guardian smiled gently. "There is much to see, but you must go deeper into the forest to truly experience the magic. There are creatures here that you've never seen before, and places where time stands still. But remember, you must be careful. The Winter Wonderland is full of beauty, but it can also be dangerous if you lose your way." Emily nodded. She was ready. She followed the guardian as they led her through the snowy forest. The trees were tall and covered with thick layers of snow, and the ground sparkled as if diamonds had been sprinkled everywhere. Emily felt like she was walking in a dream. After walking for what seemed like hours, they arrived at a large frozen river. The ice was so clear that Emily could see fish swimming beneath it. "Wow!" she whispered, amazed at how beautiful it was. But then something caught her eye. On the other side of the river, she saw something moving. It looked like a small creature running quickly across the snow. "What was that?" she asked. The guardian looked at her with a mysterious smile. "That is one of the creatures of the Winter Wonderland. They are shy but kind. If you are patient, you may see them more closely." Emily's curiosity grew. She wanted to see the creature up close. The guardian led her to a narrow bridge made of ice that crossed the river. It looked slippery, but Emily trusted the guardian and carefully followed. The bridge felt strong under her feet, and soon they were on the other side. The snow was deeper here, and the air felt colder, but Emily didn't mind. She was too excited to feel the chill. They continued walking, and soon they reached a small hill. As they climbed to the top, Emily gasped. Below her, she saw a village made entirely of snow and ice. The houses were carved from blocks of ice, and the streets were lined with snow lanterns that glowed softly in the dim winter light. Smoke rose from chimneys, but instead of the usual gray smoke, it was light blue, dancing in the air like magical ribbons. "This is the village of the Snow Folk," the guardian said. "They have lived here for hundreds of years, hidden from the world. Only those who believe in magic can see their village." Emily was amazed. She had never seen anything like this before. As they walked down into the village, she saw small figures peeking out from behind the ice houses. They were the Snow Folk, tiny people no taller than her knees. They wore warm coats made of snowflakes and smiled shyly as Emily and the Guardian passed by. One of the snow folk, a small boy with bright eyes, came forward. He bowed to the Guardian and then looked up at Emily. "Hello, Emily," he said in a high, soft voice. "We've been waiting for you." Emily was surprised. "You know my name?" she asked. The boy smiled. "Of course. The snow whispers many things, and we heard about your journey." "Welcome to our village," Emily smiled back. She felt warm inside, even though she was surrounded by snow. The snow folk invited her into one of their houses, where a cozy fire burned in the middle of the room. The fire was unlike any fire Emily had seen before. It glowed with a soft blue light and didn't seem to burn anything. It gave off warmth without smoke. The snow folk served her a hot drink made from snowberries, which tasted sweet and cool at the same time. Emily felt more refreshed than ever. As she sat by the fire, the snow folk told her stories about their lives in the winter wonderland. They spoke of magical creatures, like the ice foxes, who could disappear into the snow, and the snow owls, who flew silently through the night, their wings made of frost. As the evening wore on, Emily felt more and more connected to this magical world. She realized that the winter wonderland wasn't just a place of snow, it was a place where dreams came true, where the impossible became possible. She listened to the stories of the snow folk and felt a deep sense of wonder. But soon, the Guardian stood up. "It is time to move on, Emily. There is one more place I must show you before your journey ends." Emily said goodbye to the snow folk, thanking them for their kindness. As she left the village, she felt a little sad to say goodbye, but she was also excited to see what the Guardian had in store for her next. They walked through the snowy forest once more, and soon they came to the foot of a mountain. The Guardian pointed to a narrow path that led up the mountain, its steps covered in snow. "At the top of this mountain lies the heart of winter," the Guardian said. "It is the source of all the snow and ice in the winter wonderland. Only a few have ever seen it." Emily felt her heart race with excitement. She had come this far, and now she was about to see the heart of the magical world. The climb was steep, and the air grew colder with each step. But Emily didn't stop. She was determined to reach the top. After a long, difficult climb, they finally reached the summit. Emily gasped at the sight before her. In the center of the mountain peak was a glowing crystal as tall as a tree. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and snowflakes swirled around it, even though there was no wind. "This is the heart of winter," the Guardian said softly. "It is the source of all the snow, the cold, and the magic in this world. It keeps the winter wonderland alive." Emily stepped closer, her eyes wide with wonder. She felt a deep sense of peace as she stood before the glowing crystal. The air around it was cold, but it didn't hurt. Instead, it felt comforting, like the gentle touch of winter. As she stood there, she realized something important. The winter wonderland wasn't just a place of magic, it was a place of balance, where the cold brought beauty and the snow brought life. She understood now why her grandmother had always spoken of it with such love. "Thank you for showing me this," Emily said, her voice full of gratitude. The guardian smiled. "You are welcome, Emily. But now it is time for you to return home. The Winter Wonderland will always be here, waiting for you when you need it. But your journey for now has ended." Emily felt a little sad, but she knew the guardian was right. It was time to go back to her village. But she would never forget what she had seen and felt in the Winter Wonderland. As the guardian led her back down the mountain, Emily looked back at the glowing crystal one last time. It was a sight she would carry in her heart forever. When she finally returned to the village, the snow was still falling gently, and everything looked as it always had. But Emily knew that she had changed. She had seen a magical world, full of wonder and beauty, and she knew that it would always be a part of her. As she walked back home, she smiled. The Winter Wonderland was real, and it was more beautiful than she had ever imagined. And though she was back in her quiet village, she knew that the magic of the snow would always be with her. The end.